2000, what is it? 2043 days, I believe. 2043 days since Richard was forcibly removed. Sorry, let me get a drink. It's been a long day, a long day. Okay, so let's get that so it's not annoying. So much going on, y'all. 2043 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss. Not far, he was taken down to the basement room of the same building, 2479, on Fort Bliss, the arms room, and it's a soundproof room, and his life was taken from him. And then this is a dirty cartel. This is infiltrated into our military, up to no good, very vile, very vulgar, very perverse. They're just perverts, and very evil at that. And they stole Richard's body. The evidence indicates that his organs were harvested. I don't know. I can't even think of, when I think of CJNG, I just can't even think. It's just so gruesome. And his body was then trafficked to Mexico. We know that for sure. And all the evidence, thanks to President Trump. I want to say that absolutely. And the corroborating evidence, overwhelming corroborating evidence, is that his body was disposed of at Plenitude Crematorium. Just, it's just right over the border. It's very, very, very close, because El Paso, where Fort Bliss is right on the border. There's tunnels everywhere. In 2025, the cartel leader of the tunnels lost his life. We know tunnels were exposed in 2025 thanks to President Trump, and they were trafficking terribly. They're even under the schools. We had that confirmed, that under the El Paso ISD schools. That's why the El Paso ISD police department is so corrupted, and up to no good. Really, it's just so bad. And so, it's very, very close to Juarez and the Plenitude Crematorium. Matter of fact, the whole family that owns it lives in El Paso. They do business in El Paso. They do business outside of the laws of this country, because they're like their restaurant. You and I, if we got a restaurant, we would have to pay to get a liquor license. We would have to abide by all of those regulations. Well, that's not the case for the Purchase Arellano Caron family, and their associations with the philanthropists. With the philanthropists, I think philanthropists are a code for El Paso Mormon faction cartel, right? So let's get started, because it is so late and there's so much to say. Catch everybody up on, and we have. First of all, I want to say thank you for everybody that has been sharing. We do not monetize. We are absolutely shadow banned. We are absolutely blackballed in the media. But not for long, not for long. The truth is getting out there, and it's because of you, because of you sharing all of this. And I will also say a big help to um, Mitch Snow. Mitch Snow was a huge help. And of course, all the work that Candace Owens is putting in on this. And of course, the biggest help. And people will just, some people will just go crazy, but it's the truth. President Trump has been the biggest help in all of this. And today has been no different. Um, the amount of information that we're getting in this vicious negotiation for the repatriation of our son's remains, um, we're getting closer. And um, oh, you know, it's so hard to explain. It's so hard to explain. Let's see if I can see if I'm on, because I don't want to hurt the ongoing investigations and the ongoing actions that are happening. Um, let's see there. Yeah, I do see it. Okay. Sometimes my phone just glitches a little bit. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Um, and translating everything into Spanish. God bless you for that, because this has to do with our countries, right? The infiltration of our countries. And you see what has to happen. And I think that at this point, and especially for us, because we have been paying attention and investigating, when you're investigating, you're constantly studying everything, um, and you learn so much. Um, y- you're at the point where, okay, um, the courthouses are infiltrated, the DA's office, James Montoya infiltrated, the Texas Rangers, they are a threat to public safety, right? Instead of being the Department of Public Safety, they are actually a threat to public safety. They are absolutely compromised and corrupted to the point, to the point that I think they need to be disbanded. And I am a pro army, pro military, pro law enforcement, pro judicial person. But I don't see the point of DPS. I really don't. And they are just sucking so much money, and they are so corrupted. I think that the police and um, the FBI and is enough. It's enough. And the CIA, I mean, we have enough to deal with all of them being corrupted, right? But I've never seen anything. I mean, and I guess um, uh, it's because the Texas Rangers have been so involved in this that we got such a close picture. And of course, we were attacked, and um, here they are. They are absolutely a threat to public safety. Why would you um, target the family of a murdered soldier? I just, so it is. And why would you target a legendary FBI agent? Because clearly Julio Cordero was targeted. And I think that Cody Carter absolutely needs to be investigated, because more and more information is coming out about the tampering of the crime scene by the very Dallas Hart criminal group. Okay, the tampering of the weapon, the tampering, the coaching of Anthony Acuna, the letting him have a month before he has to put out his statement. Also, covering up the name of Anthony Acuna, for so long, and that he was good school buddies, old school buddies of James Montoya. Huge conflict of interest. And they covered that up, you know. And there's more. That's just from my memory. And then they failed to put on the docket who coached Anthony Acuna, who tampered with the crime scene, who was there, that tampered with the weapon, and then they tampered with the grand jury. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. This is an outrage, because you have magnificent, legendary FBI agent, and we need them, right? We don't need the Gustavo Sanchez's, the Jose Sanchez's, right? We don't need them. They're corrupt. Uh, we need the Julio Corderos, and we need in our military, we need the Richard Hallidays, not the Sean Bernabes, not the Jake Jakovitzes, not the Jay Paulins. We don't need them, and we in our Congress, we do not need the likes of Tony Gonzalez. We have a huge, huge problem. We have women being targeted, women being targeted, and of course, children, because you can't have children without women. And this is why they want to confuse people and try to say, what is a woman? Because there are no children without women. And that's why the women get targeted. And they are absolutely, these infiltrators are trying to cover up for themselves by trying to hypnotize us into thinking that white is black and black is white, and that a man is a woman and a woman is a man, and a man can have a baby, and a woman, can be a man, and you know they're just trying to confuse the whole accountability, because they're targeting women. Women can have babies, and they're targeting the women for the babies. And huge, huge. And this is this very evil philanthropist Mormon faction cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel that have destroyed so many lives with the drug trade, with the targeting of women and their children. Um, it is, and of course, they've targeted the men for, um, to be the guards, to be the brawn, right? To be the brawn, and they make them do the most horrendous thing, take away their uh, humanity of wanting to be a father, wanting to be a provider for their family, wanting to be a good husband. And look at Tony Gonzalez with that big family. My heart breaks. I can't even imagine the pain they're going through. Um, and what he had everything. He had everything. He had the Mormon faction cartel backing him up, giving him money, right? The philanthropists were shedding money on him so that he would cover up, that he would be protected, that they would be protected. They were paying him for their own protection so that he wouldn't put out a call for a congressional. When we asked him for help, no way, because it would expose his supporters, right? Um, but now he resigned, and that protection is gone. And the protection for his supporters is gone. You get, if you have a congressional seat, you have a lot of protection, a lot of protection. So, yeah, times are changing. Times are changing because he did some real no-nos, you know. Um, and I know, you can compare it to other politicians and everything, but this was his staffer, and this was in Uvalde. And a staffer in Uvalde had access to a lot of sensitive information. And, you would think you'd try to keep above board in a situation like that, not be a philanderer, not be texting, uh, busy texting to, I guess, satisfy your own desires or whatever. That as a congressman, that you would think of Uvalde and the victims there, and your duty, your oath, and over Fort Bliss, that you would think of Richard Halliday, Asia Graham, and many, many more. 14-year-old girls living on barracks, being pimped out at night. For 4 months, the 14-year-old girl was living on base for 4 months. Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz told us to our face that they were bringing in young girls to party with the inside the barracks during the lockdown. We know in March of 2021, it went turbo force, crazy turbo force. Because you see, President Trump, even with all of the mutiny, and his first administration, there was so much mutiny, y'all. There were so many betrayals. Okay. And he still got Jeffrey Epstein arrested. He still got Ghislaine Maxwell arrested. He still got John of God arrested. He put a real dent in all of that. Um, but there's so much money. There's so much power. This Mormon faction, these philanthropists, and their connections within the Marines, within the Army, within the judicial system, within the prosecutor's office, within the media, um, within the oversight committees, within Congress, all over, all over, within the FBI, within the CIA, within the El Paso Police Department. And yesterday, we had Candace Owens, and I'm playing another part shortly that I think is very important. Um, she absolutely did a wonderful job by bringing the fact that all of these mass shootings are weird. They're weird. So weird that people say there's crisis actors in there. So weird that people say the crime scene is staged. So weird that people get the heebie jeebies, goosebumps, because they know something is not right. They know there's a lot of deception in these cases. They know that the investigations are botched. We know the investigations 100%. I can tell you right now, the investigations are botched. And that just gives you like a very uneasy feeling. And I thought that Candace Owens, of course, she's a professional. This is what she does. She's a podcaster, right? This is what she does. She has this beautiful gift of language. She has a gift of presentation. Well, my mom says she speaks a little bit too fast, right? My mom says she could slow down a little bit. She could slow down a little bit, but young people are very busy and they want fast. They want it fast. And so she's very gifted at being able to speak fast and clear and precise and putting the puzzle pieces together. And she absolutely has put the puzzle pieces together that when you are in a group that is so deceptive, and I've always supported Charlie Kirk. I mean, I might not have agreed with everything. Who agrees with everybody all the time, right? But I always admired him for his ability to to debate. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. You have to have a very sharp memory and be very well read, and also have the gift of enunciation, because a lot of people know so many things and they can piece things together in their head. But when it comes to enunciating it, to speak it out there so that people can understand it, that's so difficult. So I just have always admired Charlie Kirk, and I've always admired Candace Owens. You know, I never really watched so much because it was just too fast. It was too, um, but this whole series she's been doing is just amazing, and it has helped us so much because she linked it to the weirdness of these mass shootings. And I can tell you that I thought it was very weird. The whole Johnson thing was very weird in the Walmart shooting. The salsa dough was very weird in the Walmart shooting. The Ernest Christopher Grant was super, super weird in the Walmart mass shooting. The death of Alexander Gerhard Hoffman, very weird. Um, the Anchondo couples, uh, because it seems like it that they were living in a property owned by Mario Raskin Ortiz, the medical examiner. That was weird to me. The whole baby thing was weird to me. Of course, Maria Eugenia uh, Lazaret wrote. sh- and the way her facial features, like if you do facial features with everybody, they all seem like they're related, right? It's like you have all these double gangers in there. Um, the tampering and the fraud that went on with the Walmart mass shooting victims funds, that which was $12 million, and there's so much fraud in that, y'all. So much fraud. That's weird, right? The um the Mayellas, the hiding of the Mayellas being the family of Patrick Crucius. That's weird. The whole narrative that attacked President Trump to favor Beto O'Rourke in the election, to attack President Trump so he wouldn't win re-election. That was very clear. The manifesto was very, very weird. The very speedy, super speedy approval of the application for appointed counsel was very, very weird. To have an open checkbook, Joe Spencer talking to two judges that hadn't even been appointed yet to the case, but talking to them like they were. And Joe Spencer demanding an open checkbook from taxpayers, from them. That's weird. No, no mental health evaluation given to Patrick Crucius for competency when he clearly and admittedly in the court had severe mental health conditions. I mean, he was banging his head on the sidewalk when he was 3 years old. You think he has autism? I think so. He failed kindergarten. He couldn't tie a shoe when he was 18. You know, all of these things. And he's blind. He's blind without his glasses. How do you manage something like this? Well, Julio Cordero, the legendary FBI agent, before his life was taken from him brutally and unnecessarily, totally unnecessarily, admitted that there is no way that Patrick Crucius could have carried this out by himself. And all the witness testimonies, the texting, everything, oh, there's multiple shooters, that was all disappeared. And they, in one day, an amount of hours, just an amount of hours, they could say, oh, this is a lone shooter, blah, 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 just like the whole Charlie Kirk thing. Like they had answers right away and then boom, 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 that's it. And you're not supposed to ask questions. But everything's weird. Everything's very weird. And we have had so many weird things in our son's case. Like the whole Nadal Baim. I know now that in October of 2020, when we walked into that Dollar General just less than an hour after the incident happened with Nadal Baim walking in and telling the cashier that she needed to take down the flyers of our son off of the door, off of the freezer door outside, because the FBI, that he was FBI, he was an impersonator. They all are deceptive and impersonators. That he was FBI and that take it down because the FBI has found Richard and that they had to look in different places for him because he was no more whole. And that, come here, he is dead. Shh. Shh. When we got that CCTV footage, along with, don't forget, that CCTV footage came along with the cashier, who's a total hero. She's number one. What? Let me tell you, she's number one on our list. And the day is coming. The day is coming. Just keep praying. When she gave her testimony, and it was so authentic because it happened without coaching. There was no Cody Carter there to allow the coaching. There was no tampering. I asked her, can I videotape you? She said yes. She gave us her testimony. She gave us the CCTV footage. Her testimony matched the CCTV footage beautifully. I didn't coach her. I let her tell what happened. When we turned that into the FBI, I think that I think they had a lot of upset stomachs. We didn't know because we didn't know who he was, but they knew who he was. They knew his connections to the philanthropists. They knew his connections to our son's chain of command, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado of the G3. They knew his family's connection with the real estate, all that stuff, and with Western frontier trading and car dealerships and all kinds of stuff, y'all. They knew that he had a criminal record for terroristic threats. They knew that. And they knew all of that. They knew he was related to Gustavo Sanchez, to Manny Chavira, Gustavo Sanchez, who they sent to us to be our connection with the DPS, with the Texas Rangers in our own case. They managed us. They manipulated us to protect Nadal Baim, to protect the philanthropists. And their pipeline, their protection racket for the Jeffrey Epstein John of God pipeline, that had been hit pretty bad by President Trump, but they rallied and they created the Emergency Intake Center. The Emergency Intake Center. So it went from Zorro Ranch to the Emergency Intake Center. Fort Bliss, big hub for trafficking. Huge hub for trafficking. Huge. So when of course, we paying attention to Candace Owens, what she is saying, what she's presenting. And the question comes up with the Frantzves and their relationship with Fort Huachuca, which then automatically, our CAO was a asymmetric warfare officer that used his asymmetric warfare training against us. He's even published an Army Deception, and he used that. And he is totally connected with Fort Huachuca. And so is the pilot's daughter, an officer with top secret clearance. And that pilot is the lead pilot for Lolita Express for Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein even paid for her schooling. And her family was even given a plot, what do you call it? It's late. A spot of land on the Zorro Ranch, was given a place on Zorro Ranch to live, to call their own. I'm sure it was very close to their landing strip, to the hangar, because they were on the north. Zorro Ranch is located by the Otto radar that you connect to, right? The beacon. Otovor, they call it, beacon. And it's on the north, right over the north call-up of White Sands Missile Range, where they have secured air. You just fly right through that secured air and right into Zorro Ranch. No wonder Bill Sanders, was happy to be right next to Zorro Ranch, and Cesar Duarte right next to Zorro Ranch, all surrounding that area. If you don't know who Bill Sanders is, he's the father-in-law of Beto O'Rourke, and they're from Chicago. Yeah, yeah. When you think of this and what I'm about to tell you, this is all old stuff that I've covered. And then you have this report with Erika Kirk that's really been bothering me. Really been bothering me. And I hold back, I hold back because I want more research. I want, at this point, being patient has really paid off because you get more information, and that more information gives you better understanding about this network, about this pipeline, how this cartel was the protection racket for the trafficking pipeline. What do I mean by protection racket? Well, they made an alliance. Because they're in the State Department, because they're in the CIA, because they're in the FBI, because they're in oversight, right? You have Brunda Firth, Sylvia Brunda Firth, right? So if you have a complaint, she's sure to block it. It's they are absolutely running a protection racket for the criminal trafficking. And it was so effective that it made the criminal traffickers get so vile and vulgar. They're never full, Their evil is never full. It gets more and more deranged, more and more perverse, to the point where it goes into flesh peddling through the funeral homes, uh, human flesh peddling, human flesh eating. And let's just dispose of these bodies, and then we'll get humanitarian aid for it. We'll monetize it. We'll turn everything into a business. And vile and vulgar and dark and occult, absolutely it becomes the occult. Because they go mad. They go absolutely mad. It goes so dark, so evil. They have no choice than to become an occult, and join the cult, and become a cult, and go into the dark arts, and become vile and vulgar and inhumane. And part of that process is this deception, this constant lying, and becoming like a transhumanistic kind of thing. You're not human anymore. You're just a program. And I think it you get groomed as a child if you're born into that. You get groomed as a child, and it's like, oh yeah, that's just something we do. Oh, it's so fun. It's so nice. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. I mean, go NASA. I really like Disney. It's so crazy. Let's all go to California and be in a movie. Um, and they are just the most. It's it's a different It's a different family law. They don't even have the structure like we do when it comes to family, because the loyalty is to um, becoming a philanthropist. It's like the occult, the philanthropist cult. We all have to become philanthropists. And it's the most evil thing. What is a philanthropist, anyways? You could pay off people or whatever so that you can do the most vile and vulgar things. And in a death cult, in a death sex cult. I mean, drain water out of bodies so you can make dolls out of for your, what is it, locker, death locker. My goodness. It's just, anyway. So, what really has bothered me is, of course, Erika Kirk. And I think that Candace Owens has hit the nail on the head. Um, it's so strange. It's so weird. It's not real. It's like a matrix. It's like a matrix. So I want to play this. Well, let me show you this first. I posted it up. And it's very disturbing to me because of what I know. Um, First and foremost, what our son was reporting. And he was reporting to CPS multiple times. And that has been confirmed. So that means that we know that the prime suspect did the most vile and vulgar things to children, was accused of that by his own mother in a notarized affidavit. And we know that surrounded by all of this, surrounded. I mean, do you remember the vulgar and vile person involved in this case that posted her daughter's trauma up on Marketplace? I mean, crazy woman. Crazy woman. Weird things. And when I said, we need to pray for her, and I meant it, and I've been praying ever since. Um, and she got mad. She got mad. Crazy. I mean, just the weirdest things that we've gone through in all of this. And like Nadal Baim, when we found out who he was, oh, that's our worst nightmare. Y'all, he's so big in this. He's so big. So, let's look at this. Let's see if I can put it up. This is let's see if I can do it better. Yeah, this is Erika Frantzve. Before, I'm starting to really learn how to pronounce her name. Frantzve, before she was married. And this is, I have something special for you, very special, she was telling somebody. Romanian Angels. This is so creepy to me. I just can't even. She has some explaining to do on this. She really does. And then, of course, we have Candace Owens, and I'm going to play this. Let me turn it on. And this is Erika Frantzve talking about her Romanian angels. So here we go. And I want you to listen very carefully because I don't think, I haven't listened to everything that Candace Owens has said, so I might have missed it, but I don't think she connected these dots that I want to connect today.
And that clearly attracts her. And that just is Erika's life. It's a fact of Erika's life. And like I said, she lies all the time. So ahead of us jumping back into the timeline, I would like to remind you of the story she tells regarding why she was traveling internationally, specifically to China. I want you to listen to what she says about why she traveled to China. Take a listen.
I decided to create something called Everyday Heroes Like You, where we're able to, originally, it was focused on bringing funds and awareness to various grassroots organizations that were in specific communities that would be able to have volunteers that are transparent with their funds, that are actually doing what they're saying they're doing, instead of just having 70% of the funds go to admin and only 30% towards the cause. So really just focusing on making sure there was a home for transparent organizations that people could learn about, get involved with. But from there, it kind of grew into something more global. I was living in China and doing a lot of work with the victims from sex trafficking, and then began to phase that into working with the Marine Corps and the Army.
Okay. I'm going to play the rest, but I wanted to stop it there. She started this as a global. She started to then, it's sex trafficking, right? She's addressing sex trafficking. And she said, and then it moved into the Marines and then the Army. It was a progression. She was working with this into the Marines and into the Army. Let's continue.
And then was able to work with a orphanage in Romania.
Okay, so there's no mistaking what she says, and she repeats it over and over again.
And then, I think I should just play it back just a little bit and re-listen to it again.
In specific communities that would be able to have volunteers that are transparent with their funds, that are actually doing what they're saying they're doing, instead of just having 70% of the funds go to admin and only 30% towards the cause. So really just focusing on making sure there was a home for transparent organizations that people could learn about, get involved with. But from there, it kind of grew into something more global. I was living in China and doing a lot of work with the victims from sex trafficking, and then began to phase that into working with the Marine Corps and the Army, and then was able to work with a orphanage in Romania.
Okay, so there's no mistaking what.
Okay. Now, that just gives me like the bumps on the arm, the creeps, everything, because we know, and I've been talking about maybe not enough talking about this. But when we were in El Paso, when we would go over to Juarez, we went over there, I don't know, 36 times. I don't know. It's just so many times. What really got me are all the shelters and the orphanages on the Mexico side, right? And then, of course, in El Paso, these women's shelters, and they're just creepy. It's just creepy. It's like it is a business plan, right? It's part of a business plan. And then we know of La Diabla, right? We know that La Diabla's family was working for Beto O'Rourke. We know that La Diabla was targeting women, women in crisis, young women in pregnancy crisis. Oh, gosh, we know so much about this. And then training medically, right? Like, let's have a little clinic, but it's on the Mexico side. But if I have the right connections, I can operate without any kind of license, without any kind of oversight, without any kind of permit, without any kind of training. And I can just, the minimum training, I can have a bunch of 16, 17-year-old girls performing C-sections on these targeted young women that are in crisis, and then they don't live through it. And, oh, what do you mean they don't have their kidney? What do you mean that they don't have their pancreas? Oh, what do you mean they don't have their corneas? Oh, let's just dump them over into a narco crematorium. But we got the baby. I got a little scar here and there. It was a rough C-section. But we got a baby. So we can just do that in the dark, in the black market. And yeah, we'll target the United States. They targeted the homosexual community in the United States to sell these babies. We know that this is part of this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, the pipeline. Because you have to have an alliance with law enforcement on both sides. And because President Trump has absolutely showed it to be with the raid on El Mencho, with the ledgers, he just put it right out there for us, the CIA did, that we can tell that Mexico is a narco state. And with the Jeffrey Epstein release, we saw that we were corrupt. We didn't need to have all the names to know that we're corrupt. We know we're corrupt because he's so corrupt. We know enough that we saw enough because we're such a huge country that we know we are corrupt. Are we a narco state? I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. And so this is the situation. And now you have today, the security advisor for President Trump coming out and saying, heck with it, the process, the legal process, we're going after the cartels. That's it. We're going after them because of the vile and vulgar and very extreme violence that they have caused. This whole thing. Now, when he's saying he's going after the Mexican cartel, and then he has a meeting coming up then at Mar-a-Lago, and we'll see. You know them by their fruit. It's hard to trust anyone at this point, right? But that was, I don't think they would have ever said that in other administrations. This administration, with the amount of dozens and dozens and way over 100 of cartel leaders extradited. That's not who was already captured and stayed in Mexico. That's just who was extradited, and those that lost their lives, because a lot have lost their lives. Um, just hammering away on this cartel, Jeffrey Epstein, John of God pipeline, because it took so long to build up and people depend on it. They really protect it. Um, and, they've made businesses out of it, right? They've developed an economy out of it. And, and it's just so ruinous, so ruinous. And this is how they can build it up. This is how they can build up this business plan. You take a young, beautiful beauty queen, and you bat your eyelashes. You have money behind you. It could be fraudulent money, according to what's going on. It's not weird to say that there's a lot of families with fraudulent money, unexplainable wealth. And you take a beauty queen young, and you make a little LLC that you are going to help people. And I'm going to help those that have been sex trafficked. I'm going to go all the way over to China. Like, she lives in Arizona and she has to go to China to help women with sex trafficking? Explain that one. Right? I think she just had to go into her backyard, right? Just right there. There's a lot of trafficking. And then she goes over to Romania for the orphanages. Why Romania? You got all these orphanages right there. Right there. I saw them with my own eyes. Why did she have to go to Romania? And then come to find out, they built a base there. Right? Candace was saying she was kind of following her boyfriend. They went to Puerto Rico. Oh my gosh, Puerto Rico's right there by Little St. James, right in the pipeline of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking, transhumanism, disgusting, vile, occult pipeline, right? Yeah. So she goes to the orphanages there in Romania. Exactly where they're building a Marine base. And that those Marines for that Eastern European area rotate through, guess where? Fort Bliss. Those Marines rotate through Fort Bliss. Fort Bliss has, the big train. They're from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I hope I'm saying that right. But they come and train at Fort Bliss because, Fort Bliss is huge. It has the mountains. It has those ranges. I am just creeped out by the whole thing. I'm just creeped out by the whole thing. And I think there needs to be an investigation. And it's so sad, but it has to be done. It has to be done. Just like in our son's case, we put out the warning for our pending lawsuits that are going to be epic, absolutely epic. I don't think anyone has ever seen anything like it. And, that's why we come on so late. We've been working very, very hard. And, documenting everything, cataloging everything. Because there's so much at stake here. And thank you so much. Thank you for all the love. When I heard this security advisor for President Trump speak the way he spoke today, it's a little nerve-wracking because we don't want to go down a slippery slope, right? But he's absolutely right. The judges in Mexico and in the United States are not going to do anything. The lawyers are not going to do anything. We've been doing it, right? The Cesar Hargi, the Carlos Manuel Salas, the Cesar Paneche, these are all prosecutors. They're not doing anything. They are so afraid. You have Scheinbaum. You have such philanthropists intrusion with Scheinbaum. She just stands with this like, oh my gosh, I just got to get through this little speech here. They're not going to do anything. And you could say, well, you can be like Gabriella. They're eating humans. They're eating humans. And, call out, ring bells, honk your horn. And Scheinbaum will say, but the philanthropist won't let me do it. I've got to protect the philanthropist. And they're targeting women, and it's just crazy. And if Erika Kirk is involved in this, because something's not right, y'all. Something is not right. And the connection's too much. I cannot tell you how many connections, which is a positive, right? Because then this is a smaller group. That the majority don't want this, that this is a smaller group. And it is a Mormon faction cartel. It is. And you can say, oh, well, they're not all Mormons or whatever in this Mormon faction. And I'm not talking about all Mormons. I'm talking about a Mormon faction. And I can say, look, they are deceivers. They are deceivers. I don't know how many times that I was told, oh no, I'm a Christian. No, you're not a Christian. You need to say what you are. I'm Mormon. That's fine. That's what you are. Don't give me this thing that you're Christian, because your whole way of thinking is different. The whole structure of your family, the whole value of children, of women, of, a one man and one woman in a family unit. No, they have multiple wives. I don't even want to tell you what all they do because it's so bad. It's so bad. This Mormon faction. They want a planet. They want to have their own planet. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then they say, well, we're going to fund going to the moon. It's just so crazy. The moon phases. The moon phases. Watch the moon, like watch the water. It phases. It's just, I don't know. It's so crazy that some people will fall for it. And that's why Jeffrey Epstein was saying, look, I can get you eternal life. And then I'll tell you what else I can do. I can turn that biology finding, that discovery of eternal life, I can turn it into numbers. I can turn it into numbers. Voila. Abracadabra. Now it's a number. And with that number, I can make a financial instrument. And not only will you have eternal life, but you will have eternal wealth. And that will make you happy. And that will make you happy, right? Wrong. It's just, I'm sorry. I'm kind of full of vim and vigor tonight. And here it is after 2:00 in the morning. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? But this is so important. It's so important. And there's so much at stake. And I just want to tell everyone, thank you so much for watching this late. Thank you so much for all the sharing, for all the love, for the translating. And let me see if I should answer. I see that Laura was translating for me. Thank you so much. That is just awesome. Awesome. You're wonderful. And is there any other? Yes. Nichols. Ryan, thank you so much. Saw your post, tuning in. Thank you so much. So, thank you again. Please share, and I will be back tomorrow.